And now here's part 2 of our episode. So why'd you pick this song as the standout? What do you feel like? Did you pick it because you felt like it was the prototypical song from this album? Do you just think it's the best song on the album? What was the thinking behind that?
I do think it is the oddest song on the album. It's very odd, right?
I like that, yeah.
But it's also it's like he crammed as many cuckoo words as he could into one song, and then layered it with a bunch of shit, and then made a video that is completely wackadoo crazy. I don't know if you've seen the video.
Yeah. This one I haven't.
I have not, but we'll provide a link to it for our listeners.
For a treat. He's got. I think he is dressed in a bear suit.
Oh, great! Nice,
and just
naturally
jumping around.
What else would he be dressed in for a song like this?
It's incredible. And at one point, the head goes backwards, and it's just crazy.
Have you ever worn a mascot outfit? Have you ever been the mascot for a school that you went? I never have either. I think it's a travesty. I think I should have done that sometime.
The only time I ever wore a sort of mascot outfit was when I was in college, and they were making some kind of film festival, and I forget what it was. It was either supposed to be a hot dog or something, but it was a cardboard box, and they had me tap dance inside this cardboard box. It was pretty funny. No, it was
you're a huffer.
It was a fish stick. I was a fish stick.
A fish stick. A tap dancing fish stick.
I would have you'd have to do a really good job on making a fish stick costume, because I feel like hot dogs are something we all recognize, but someone dressed as a fish stick, you'd have to. Yeah,
that's
you'd have to use. I don't know.
I mean, I got skills, so I think it was good.
Probably the tap dancing sold it. I would assume. I'm assuming that's the part. That
otherwise,
people.
I would think it was a mozzarella stick, but with the tap dancing and with your performance, I'm like,
clearly from the ocean.
This is clearly frozen cod that has been deep fried. Yes,
Michael, you know that.
Perhaps grouper,
Okay, so
you get 500 points for being a tap dancing fish stick.
I feel like I should get 6, but okay.
I'll give you 550. How's 550? Okay. And we'll pay for your Uber home.
Well, let me just read you some of the lyrics. Am I allowed to do that on this podcast?
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh, please do.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just going to read them. Electronic eye vision. Astromagnetic, corrupted files from galactical planets. Write a new genetic code. Thoughts get transported from Neanderthal skulls to digital food malls. Telemarketing people with cellular headsets on their skulls, selling you wisdom from a plexiglass prism. Biochemical jism hits you with its rhythm.
It's practically Ginsberg, really. It's practically city. I feel like I'm at City Lights in San Francisco.
My brain hurts just saying that shit.
Right.
This song, I think I had always, because I had listened to this album before you brought it to us for the podcast, but I don't think I'd ever really listened to that song as closely, because it's short too, and it's sort of like hidden in the center of it, but listening more closely to the lyrics, and because I had to pay more attention to that song when I was listening, it almost sounds to me like if you had to take this whole album and condense it down into one track, that this is the one.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that, Michael.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
It sort of takes a little bit from every song, and this sort of because this song is super spacey, he's talking a lot about... Which, did make me wonder if it was sort of about the thing we dare not talk about.
Yes.
His spiritual beliefs.
Perchance.
Yeah, perchance.
But that to me is very fascinating, because it's coming from a place that I don't have any background or, basis for comparison for. And so it's just this spatial gobbledygook.
Yeah. Well, he is challenging. I have this take I've been chewing on for the past couple minutes, and are you a fan of They Might Be Giants?
Oh yeah, I mean, like
yeah,
in small doses.
Yes. Okay, that's totally fair, and I think I'm probably on a similar level of appreciation for them. Yep. I like them as a concept a whole lot more than I've ever felt really, really connected to them.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something about Beck that feels like he shares a lot of DNA creatively with them, this sort of like oddball nerdy white boy thing going on in a very particular performance art kind of avant-garde New York way.
Yeah.
But he's what happens if They Might Be Giants also sold records like crazy, right?
Yeah, and like maybe lived out of their car for a little bit,
Yes. Whereas They Might Be Giants feel like they're the random, like, really indie darlings that probably live in Michigan or something like that.
And like they totally went on to make a children's album, which makes total sense to me, and which, by the way, is amazing. Because
I've heard that
my sister bought it for her kids, and we got a big hoot out of that one. It was very funny.
So do you feel like at what point did Beck become pop music, or was he always pop music?
I don't think Beck has ever been pop music. I think that.
Oh, really? I do.
Oh, interesting. No, I don't. I just feel that he just hit some kind of nerve.
Yeah.
Because I guess when I think of pop music, I think of, like what was pop music at the time. Like he's alternative music that just hit big.
Mm-hmm. This is showing my age too. I gained an appreciation for Beck at a very different time than you guys did. So this like
when I'm trying to
there's
what was popular at the time when he came out. Like the Beastie Boys were popular.
Yeah.
And they were, I mean, I'm remembering like 90s alternative radio was really a mishmash of things. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was, 1 minute you'd have Squirrel Nut Zippers, and then a Beck song would play, and then Garbage, and then Metallica, and you'd be like, what? Like at the time we were like, yep, makes sense to me. These are all on the same radio station.
Yeah, and I know they do play Beck on the Lithium channel, which is like what I listen to, which is how I know that I've turned into my dad, because I listen to oldies stations now. I can't believe it, but like seriously, that's an oldie.
We gotta own it.
It's an oldie.
We just got to own it. We love it. It's what it's going to be for us.
I'm like, people just don't understand us because we're Gen X.
It's true. No, I'm there with you, Mandy. They can laugh at us, but no, it's true. They'll never understand.
They'll never understand that you need to have.
That's the whole thing about Gen Xers. You're misunderstood.
Well, and there was, I think, because Gen X music has a sense of humor that I think is missing from a lot of pop music. My God, I watched the MTV Music Awards the other night, and I'm like, oh God, my eyes, what am I looking at?
There's a lot going on.
It's like so over sexualized that it's boring. Whereas I felt like I felt like 90s music, you could get the girl, but only if you had a clever turn of phrase. Like you had to have a smart alecky poem. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before on the podcast.
99 points for that, by the way.
Yeah, that's somewhere around like the early 2000s. We haven't officially proclaimed the year, but we're somewhere around there was the official death of snark.
Yeah.
And like all through the 90s, you were allowed to be sarcastic and clever and witty, and then somewhere around early 2000s, everyone had to be sincere. And
it was the emo thing. This was a discussion we were having around emo and its connection to grunge.
Park, I'm gonna throw up.
We love Linkin Park on this podcast. We are a pro Linkin Park podcast. Roughly.
It's good like gym music. It's like if you want like hard hitting music that also feels like it's a little mass produced, and you're okay with that. That's Linkin Park.
Okay, heard.
So I'm gonna get back to you here in a second, Mandy, but I want to finish up what I was saying about Beck being pop music now, and it kind of crystallized. I think he turned. I think there was a point at which he became pop music, and I think it might have been when he won Grammys. That might have been when he turned. There was something that turned in him, and that song "Dreams." I don't love that song "Dreams." It's so there's something about it sort of chilling to me.
Dreams.
It's a very recent
one
from a few years ago. Yeah,
on his Colors album.
Yes,
yes,
on
it is.
Colors.
It was the lead single off of Colors.
I think that Colors is super marketable. You know, like I do like that album, but I still like. Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time putting a label of pop music on Beck. I just think he's someone who does what he wants and kind of became popular for being true to himself, like what he likes.
Yeah. I mean, it sort of depends on, and again, we're talking genre here, like how you actually define pop. Like, are you defining the music by being something that is meant to please the masses? Are you defining it by a certain beat? Are you defining it by a tempo? I mean, I still don't really know. I mean, I feel like there are certain artists that I can say are definitively pop, but then there are some who have that crossover appeal. But then, yeah, like you said, like Beck, he just does whatever he wants. Like he's not. Yeah. Every time he releases an album, I never think he's doing so to appeal to a specific audience. He's doing so because he's like, I felt like making this now.
Yeah, and I feel like when he made Colors, that I believe I read somewhere that he wanted to make an album that was just really fun to go on tour with, and that album is like an eargasm. It's just great, and it's still got a little bit of a like his song "Wow." You're like, are you being serious? It's still got a little.
Yeah, you know, maybe this is maybe this is a troll. Maybe this is the next manifestation of his sort of messing with us as an audience. Is he's like, no, I'm a pop star. You know, like I can write a song that is an eargasm. Yeah. I can write an album of eargasms. And if you haven't
heard "Wow," like go listen to it because it cracks me up every time because I'm like, what's happening?
I also don't want to say pop music like it's a pejorative either. Right. You know, I think that would be too reductive as well of the whole concept of like it's something that we are constantly, it's flowing in and out of us. This like, what is the popular art that is out there? What is the outsider art that's out there?
And you're not wrong.
And we're just always having that conversation.
You know, like I've developed like sort of an after the fact appreciation for early Green Day. I don't love all their stuff, right? But I think it's interesting that they're considered pop. But when I go back and listen to Dookie, I'm like, oh no, this is actually just a very well produced punk album. It's actually punk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That became.
Oh, I like the distinction. Okay, you get 999 points for saying a very well produced punk album, because that's the difference, isn't it? It's production. It's production that's what makes pop music.
Yeah.
Is production, right?
I can get on board with that. Yep. The production value on that particular album is like through the roof.
I sort of did that with Blink-182. You know, like I didn't really love them at the time, but then now years later,
well, because they're a bunch of smartasses.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're like, oh yeah, this speaks to me.
So when we asked you to give us an album that you believe is perfect, we did not define the word perfect for you. So we're curious to know, what were your standards for perfection for this album?
What is so perfect about this album is that I feel the album tells a story from start to finish. Like every song is in perfect order of listening. You know, you can listen to the whole thing from start to finish, and I don't find myself skipping tracks. You know,
no skips.
No skips. This is a no skip album.
No skips.
And
great.
The other thing is that it is perfectly imperfect. There's like so much going on. It almost feels like he threw everything against the wall to see what would stick, and it all stuck, and it's all amazing. You know, it's so deeply layered. Every single track has so many layers going on, and the man loves a Casio, and I respect him for that.
It's his thing. Yeah.
It does feel like he like produced the hell out of this album. Like that image of throwing everything at the wall, and it feels like that. It's maximalist in its approach.
Yes,
totally.
And if you really want a good visual for this maximalist approach, if you can find it on YouTube, the video that he did for the album, like so not the MTV video, but the video for the album of Strange Apparition. When you see what he was doing with the album and the visuals, like that is really a good one to watch, because there's so much going on. It's almost like a Peter Greenaway movie going on. You're like, oh my God, like there's so much to look at. Geez. And I feel like that's what this album, it's just the height of his decadence. And, you can pick
decadence
any song off of it. And it's just a fantastic song.
If you had to describe this album, like the sound of this album to somebody, how would you describe it?
I'd say it's like eating a 10-course feast.
Yeah.
That
3,000 points for that. What part of this? Yeah. What parts? So would you say that? Oh man. 1,000 BPM kind of comes late in it to be the entree. Is that the entree? Or maybe 1,000 BPM is kind of like the beginning of dessert. Maybe that's like
I feel
you're just getting done with the meal.
The little lemon sorbet palate cleanser that resets. Yeah. Because it's so off the wall that it's like, okay, and then it goes into the Tin Can Mountaintop or whatever that song is called.
I mean, now that you've used that metaphor, I can't help but think of, have you heard of that restaurant in Chicago? It's supposedly one of the greatest restaurants in the world, called Alinea by Grant Achatz, I believe.
No, but
where when you go there, I mean, to get in there,
it's
I think
it's
like $250 or $300 to even go to it.
That's why
and then when you go there, it's like a 2.5 hour dinner, because you move to different rooms, and there's like 21 courses, and like one of them is, you have to pull this little thing away, and then the thing drops into the thing and it becomes food. I mean, it's like
that's this album.
Exactly. Now that you said that, I'm like, even though I've never eaten at Alinea, I'm like, I feel like that's what this experience must be like.
Definitely.
Yeah. You could probably even say the same thing about his work overall, right? Like since they're all different sort of genres, it's really like moving from one's, I guess, region to the next. I was just thinking, one of the things that I've discovered, there are a lot of Beck albums that I really like a lot. I just kind of forgot that since there wasn't a lot of something connecting them all, I guess I kind of forgot.
Yeah, if you really want to blow your mind, you should listen to Stereopathetic Soul Manure.
Stereopathetic Soul Manure.
Wait, what's that?
Yes.
Yeah. What is that?
Wait, what is it?
It's an album.
Is that one of his albums?
Yes.
Did I miss that
Unless
one?
I'm like,
which one?
Unless I'm tripping, I'm pretty sure it was one of his.
Is it a recent one or an older one?
No, this was around Loser.
Oh, was it? Okay. All right. Early Beck, I need to, I did some listening in preparation for this, but
I thought it was a studio album by Beck, Stereopathetic Soul Manure.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, from 1994.
Have you listened to Mellow Gold? Have you ever listened to that album, Mellow Gold?
Yes.
I have, yeah.
It's pretty insane for like the fact that there's only one hit on that album, because there's really only one crystallized idea on the album.
one actual song.
Yeah, but the rest is like,
incidentally, the first song on the album too, which I think is such a strong choice to put your
soul sucking jerk.
Maybe that was a label thing though. Maybe they're just like, I don't know, let's put Loser at the top, because then at least we got that.
Yeah, or something, or like he had this song and they were like, well, but we need an album, and he's like, oh, here's some stuff.
Honestly, like in the minimal research I did for my little intro at the beginning, that actually sounds kind of accurate, because I think like he was just making weird stuff, and I think Mellow Gold is all that weird stuff just put onto an album, because it wasn't until he made Odelay that he's like, oh, okay, I'm going to make an album for real now.
Right. Yeah. And like, I think he used to go to open mics and stuff and like run on stage and like take the mic and just try out stuff. That's like really California though. Like I don't feel like people do that in New York.
Like, LA's weird. Yeah. LA's weird like that. It's kind of, I like that. I want to know when you listen to this album now. You know how many? We're 16 years since it came out. Like, do you is it a frequent listen for you, or is it just kind of in the background, something that you have a great appreciation for?
No, I still listen to it quite a bit. And I definitely listen to 1,000 beats per minute. It's something I listen to a lot of times when before I perform, you know, like when I'm on the way to do something, because it just makes me feel happy and excited, and it kind of gets me in a good zone to do my thing, you know.
Yeah, we haven't asked that question enough on the podcast, like, because we have performers on the podcast quite a bit. We should be asking them, is this like a psych up, or, you know, get yourself hyped sort of album?
Yeah. Or I also like the idea that it gives you that energy when you're going to, you know, also create art. And I find that some of my favorite albums are the ones that remind me, oh yeah, there's this beautiful force out there in the world called art that you take part in.
Yeah.
And you get to do that too.
And for my theater life, I won't say, like, I don't necessarily listen to it. Like, if I were going to film something, I don't know that it would put me in the best headspace for that. But for theater stuff, like, I feel that his music sort of goes along with my aesthetic that I put out into the world of sort of, you know, he does have a darkness to him, even in his light, funny stuff. I feel like there's still like something going on that's a little deeper and just always a little sad. And that's me. And he's always got a smart ass sense of humor, and that's me. And he can also drop a beat when he needs to. And that's me in a show, you know, like, I feel like I'm the person who goes there, you know, Michael hired me for a show to go there. And so you go there and I understand that it's a skill that not everybody has, even if they say they do. You know, like, so I feel like his music is in music form, sort of what I do in theater form, like acting form. So I feel like we're a good match for each other aesthetically.
I love that. Yeah, you get 3 million points. You get 3 million points for going there.
I feel like I'm slaying this game. He's got that nice dichotomy of, is that the word I'm looking for? Incongruous. His music is incongruous. Like one of the songs that's not on this album, but is one of my favorites, is his song "Girl." I think there's a misunderstanding of what he's saying. I mean, this is just me. I know it's up for discussion, and I don't know if he's ever said what it is he's saying. But I know a lot of people think he's saying "my sun-eyed girl." And I don't think that's what he's saying.
What's he saying?
I think he's saying "my cyanide girl." Oh, because when you listen to the lyrics of the whole song, it's about a girl who's like suicidal, right? She sees the bleach bones and the sand, and, you know, she's like tying a noose with like.
It's there. There, you have good evidence for that.
Yeah, and so I've always thought he was saying cyanide, and he does have a little relaxed way of talking. I just think he's saying cyanide.
It's a little sinister. There's a little bit of sinisterness about that.
And I think that whole album is kind of about death.
Well, there's I always feel like his music it's simultaneously mischievous and wistful and then also sometimes kind of celebratory. I mean, yeah, he contains multitudes, basically.
By God, does he ever?
Yeah.
So before we go to the scoreboard, which I know you've been nervous about, but you got like 3 million points a few seconds ago, so I feel like you're probably doing fine. Is there anything that we haven't said or you haven't said that you think our listeners need to know about Beck's The Information?
What you should know is that you are missing out if you haven't heard it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I love that.
Like your life is incomplete
so well said.
if you haven't heard it.
Good enough reason to do just about anything. Well, with that said, then I'm going to go to the board and let you know how exactly you did on points. Which, spoiler alert, you did great. We're going to go from the most recent points you got, which was 3 million points for going there, which you argue Beck did, and you try to do in your work as well. 3,000 points for saying this album is a 10-course meal. 999 points for Dookie by Green Day being a very well-produced punk album, specifically. 99 points for Smart Alecky Poems Getting the Girls. 550 points for being a tap dancing fish stick. Which also, if you ever need to name a production company, I think that would be a great name for your production company. You are getting a commendation and a special dispensation from us to be a winner forever for being the first person on this podcast to mention Polyphonic Spree. You should be proud of yourself. You got 1 million points for seeing the Ravenettes. You got 450 for describing Beck as a beat poet for Gen Xers. 300 points for is he serious right now? 60 points for someone understands me. 600 points for your mom liking Rick James's music, but not the man himself. And there were 400 points for your description of the whole package of the deluxe edition of the information that you received as a gift and introduce you to this wonderful album. Add that to the 11 out of 10 that you gave to Michael for the recap, because all of the points matter. I'd say this board's looking pretty good. Michael, what do you think, buddy? The Information by Beck. Is it a perfect album? Does it go all the way to 11?
I think we've had a pretty solid case here tonight, and I'm gonna say yes. In fact, the Beck's The Information goes to 11.
Ding 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 ding. Félicitations, mon ami.
Well,
this is excellent.
Yeah, so we're gonna serve up our standout track, and I want some commentary from you because I think you may have some thoughts about this as our standout track. So before we have them listen to it, Tyler, which track have we chosen as our standout track from this album?
We have chosen Soldier Jane, kind of in the middle towards the beginning. I think we had a hard time picking a standout track from this album. This one sort of struck me lyrically, and also I felt like there was really good contrast in this song. So it definitely caught the ear really well. But I think the reason why we might have had a difficult time choosing a standout track is maybe because of the consistency and the sort of musical consistency throughout the entire album that you were arguing for earlier. What is your take on us picking this as our standout track?
I'm a little surprised. This is on my scale on the lower side of songs for me on the album.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. Like it's never been a real standout track for me. Maybe because it actually feels kind of pop. And a little simple for me. Like I like the song. Don't get me wrong, I like the song, but it's like I feel like with some of the other songs on the track, I feel like it's a little lower on the scale for me.
That's fair. What did it do for you, Michael, that made you agree with my assessment and your
I think it felt like a breath. I mean, because there's so and also like I mean honestly, like often when our guest chooses a standout track, sometimes I feel like when I try and pick a standout track, I try and find a contrasting one so that our two tracks can represent the album. But it's kind of impossible to represent this album overall. I mean, my favorite song on the album is Think I'm in Love, but that's like maybe the most poppy.
Yeah, and I do think it was
like
I think it was a pop song from the album. Yeah, I think it was a chart album or a chart song.
Yeah. So, and I know the first single was Nausea, which is weird.
Was nominated for a Grammy.
Single. I know.
Yeah. I don't hate that song.
I don't hate it, but I was like, this is the one you're going to nominate for the Grammy? This is the track. Is it because it says nausea? Like, come on.
Oh, the freaking Grammys. We're going to do a Grammys deep dive one of these days. We've been threatening to do it for a while.
But it also, I mean, the first track, I mean, this is I'm a sucker for a good first track. And this is a good first track for this album too. But I think something about the way Soldier Jane ends, because there's this sort of like chord progression. I mean, I don't know a ton about music theory, but I know that there are certain chord progressions that make everybody go like, like they sort of like make you get shivers. And there's something about that progression in this song and the way it sounds a little bit different towards the end. And it sounds like the whole thing kind of like evaporates into thin air at the end. So it's, I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
But we've described it now in great detail.
I want to say one more thing about the Grammys.
Yes, please do. Yes.
Go ahead. Where Beck won Album of the Year. It's another one that I feel like I didn't necessarily connect with, which is odd, but I can't remember what one it was, but he won over Beyonce.
I think it was Morning Phase.
And he won over Beyonce, and people lost their minds, and they were literally saying, "Who the F is Beck?" And people didn't know who he was. And I was like, look, that is just that was really upsetting to me, because I think that I personally think that Beck is just like a musical savant, he's just so gifted. He can do anything. He can make any kind of music. And I was so angry, that people actually were saying like, who is that? I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Just goes to show you, it just goes to show you the scale at which we're talking about these things, where some, people, the global music economy and the Grammys' role in that is it fascinates me to no end.
Yeah.
But people say that about, people said that about Bon Iver when he won too. Who the fuck is this Bon Iver guy?
Right.
There's, granted, I'm not saying that Bon Iver is necessarily.
He had a song on one of the Twilight soundtracks, so everyone sit down.
Right. No, I think it's a very fair thing. That's very.
Well, also, I mean, I feel like I'm sort of learning from doing this podcast. Well, I had already known this, I think, but the Grammys honestly don't mean anything anyway, because I mean, there were some other albums that I think that was his third time being nominated for Album of the Year. He was nominated for Odelay and for Midnight Vultures. But not nominated for Sea Change or Guero. They were just nominated for alternative album. So I don't know what Grammy voters are thinking, and they can all just go, I don't know, suck an egg. That's what they can do. You can suck an egg, Grammy voters.
You know that one of Beck's albums that came out was in sheet music.
Wait, which one?
I'll have to look it up. But he released an album just in sheet music and had people record it. Sheet music album. Did it have a name?
Oh, that's brilliant.
I'm vaguely remembering this now.
Book by Beck. Songreader is a book of sheet music by Beck. So there were 20 songs worth of sheet music and more than 100 pages of art. And I'm just like, come on. Talk about...
That's amazing.
Who would do that?
It's really, it's creative. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. So the album was made by people playing the music.
By all of us.
Incredible.
All right. Well, Mandy, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was great to see you and great to talk about music with you, of course.
Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Let's go find Beck when you get out here to LA. Let's go find him.
That would be so cool. I wouldn't know what to say though. I feel like he's he's so smart. I wouldn't know what. I'd just be like, I don't know.
Well, we just would try not to spook him. He might climb a tree or something like that.
I don't know. I've heard you shouldn't meet your heroes.
Yeah.
So.
Fair.
All right, listeners. Let's. We're gonna play us. We're gonna. Let me do that again.
Play us out.
All right, listeners. We're gonna play. Damn it! I don't know what I'm saying.
All right, give it.
All right, thanks everyone for listening. We're gonna leave you with a little Soldier Jane. Bye.
Bye.